it always seemed to me essential that a company like the Royal Shakespeare Company, so a company that's national, regional and international, took a proper interest and properly put its cards on the table with a piece of research like this. Not that it should always be only about us, but precisely because it was collaborative with regional theatres, London theatres, so it seemed we would get a better picture. But also I think we have got special responsibilities because of that reach. We've got to think carefully about the influence we have over the whole of the industry, and so, as I say, it seemed necessary and essential that we took part. I also think that we were really curious about it, that there was lots of rumours and there was a sense that something wasn't right, but we didn't have any evidence for it, and we weren't sure where that was going to lead us. So those two reasons are curiosity and a sense of playing a kind of necessary national and international role in the project. I think I was particularly impressed by the process because it's been my experience, and I've ended up talking a lot about gender in the theatre over my career, but it's been my experience that it falls into one of two camps. Either it's wholly anecdotal, it is the status of rumour, and people have got a sense either that something is terribly wrong or that everything's really just about okay and we should just wait until it sorts itself out. So there's that sort of camp. Or you get some hard statistics, usually commissioned by a newspaper, so usually commissioned with an agenda. And that agenda might be sympathetic to the cause of equality, but it's often then printed as a kind of disaster story and then nothing's done with it. So it seemed to me that the process of research that Tonic and Advance were able to encourage us all to take allowed those two things to hold hands. So to investigate where did those stories come from, where are those anecdotes from, a real sense of respect for the anecdotal, so there's something in the qualitative research I think that arises through Advance that's useful to listen to, but to marry it to proper quantitative research. So it feels like some of those things I thought are true for some years I now know are true, and there are one or two which I think we've debunked, so there's also a sense of credit where credit's due of things that are not in as poor a state as they might be. So there's a positive energy about marrying the quantitative to the qualitative. I think it's been a very enjoyable experience being part of a gang of theatres of different sizes, theatre companies as well as theatre buildings. And of course we're the biggest, and sometimes that can make you feel like an outsider in a whole different way. You spend your life apologising for having the greatest resources, and I think our team have really enjoyed sharing those resources, but also sharing experiences and a very similar research process with lots of other kinds of theatres. So it's allowed the RSC to feel included in a proper way, but I think it's also allowed us to think about the whole industry by having such a representative group, and that's been particularly vivid in the away days where we've got together and we've been able to have conversations where we realise we have much more in common than perhaps we thought. And there has been a sense of strength in numbers, because frequently one considers these issues, finds some things that you want to try and change, and if you're doing that in isolation, that's very hard to have momentum. There's a natural momentum, I think, that comes from working together like this. Well, there is something that I've been sort of going on and on about for years, but it's come up through Advance, which is the question of who we consider to be prominent and successful women in theatre. I think this process has made me reflect again on the status we give to the artist, which is great and right and proper, but it troubles me that the brilliant general managers and executive directors, who are almost all women, who have, across British theatre, have been running the industry for decades and decades, are still not credited with having status and authority. And that's been very vivid because so many of them have taken part in Advance. So I suppose it's made me campaigning on yet another front about my colleagues who don't also direct work or write work or make work of their own, but actually have been in positions of leadership for a very long time.